on the phone. Who are you? Why are you here?
He's in the bedroom with her.
I've got the police on the phone. I've got the police on the phone. Why are you here? Why are you here? Why?
Karen?
Karen?
They left home with big dreams. To study, to make friends, to build a future. Their campuses were supposed to be safe. Their dorms were supposed to be sanctuaries. Their days were filled with lectures, coffee runs, and late-night study sessions. But what happens when the place meant to shape your future becomes the stage for your final moments? Some vanished without a trace. Others were betrayed by the very people they trusted most. And some died at the hands of strangers lurking in plain sight. These aren't just headlines or cold cases. These are real students, sons, daughters, siblings, whose lives were stolen behind ivy-covered walls and brick hallways. Tonight, we're digging into the dark side of higher education, the true crime stories that rocked college campuses to their core. These are the universities where students were murdered. Yeardley Love, University of Virginia. It was spring semester at the University of Virginia. Students were preparing for finals. Graduation was just around the corner. For 22-year-old Yeardley Love, the future looked bright. She was a star athlete on the women's lacrosse team, a fierce competitor on the field, and a beloved friend off of it. But on May 3rd, 2010, her life came to a sudden, violent end in her own apartment. It was just after 2:15 a.m. when Yeardley's roommate found her unresponsive in her bedroom. At first, it looked like alcohol poisoning or maybe a seizure, but something felt off. There was blood on her pillow. Her eye was swollen shut. Police arrived and quickly realized this wasn't an accident. It was a homicide. Suspicion immediately turned to her ex-boyfriend, George Hughley V, also a UVA student and lacrosse player. Their relationship had been toxic. There were public arguments, jealous outbursts, and late-night texts that told a story of control and volatility. Hughley confessed to breaking into her apartment that night, shaking her violently during a confrontation, and leaving her on the bed, unaware he claimed that she was fatally injured. In 2012, George Hughley was convicted of second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 23 years in prison. The trial gripped the nation, not just because of the brutality, but because it exposed something far more common: intimate partner violence among young adults. Yeardley's family turned grief into action. They launched the One Love Foundation, a powerful movement to raise awareness about Dayton violence and teach young people how to recognize the warning signs. Her death was a tragedy, but her legacy is saving lives. Yeardley Love was just weeks away from graduation. She had her whole life ahead of her. But behind the smiles and achievements was a dangerous relationship that no one fully understood, until it was too late. Her story is a chilling reminder that violence doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it's much closer than we think. Lauren McCluskey, University of Utah. She was a track star, an honors student, and by all accounts, thriving. 21-year-old Lauren McCluskey had worked hard to earn her place at the University of Utah. But on October 22, 2018, her life was taken in a cold-blooded act of betrayal, one that could have been prevented. Lauren had recently started dating a man named Melvin Rowland. She thought he was 28. In reality, he was 37 and a registered sex offender using a fake identity. When Lauren found out the truth, she ended the relationship immediately. That should have been the end of it. But it was just the beginning of a nightmare. She reported his harassment and extortion to campus police over 20 times. She even showed them threatening messages and explicit photos he was using to blackmail her. Her cries for help were ignored. No protective action was taken. On October 22nd, as Lauren walked to her dorm after a class, Melvin Rowland was waiting in the shadows. He dragged her into a parked car, shot her multiple times, and left her lifeless body inside. Hours later, he took his own life while fleeing from police. The fallout was swift. Students, parents, and citizens demanded answers. Why hadn't the campus police acted? Why was she left unprotected after making so many reports? An independent review confirmed what her family feared. The university failed her. The McCluskey family sued the university and eventually received a $13.5 million settlement, one of the largest of its kind. Lauren's parents turned their heartbreak into a mission. They created the Lauren McCluskey Foundation, dedicated to improving campus safety and educating students about dating violence, stalking, and coercive control. Their goal is simple: never let another student fall through the cracks. Lauren McCluskey knew she was in danger. She begged for help, and she was ignored. Her case is not just a tragedy, it's a wake-up call to universities across the country. Ignoring the warning signs can cost someone their life. Hannah Graham, University of Virginia. She was smart, kind, and full of life. A second-year student majoring in anthropology at the University of Virginia. 18-year-old Hannah Graham was known for her bright spirit and adventurous heart. But in the early hours of September 13, 2014, she vanished without a trace. What followed was one of the most haunting disappearances in modern campus history. A case that exposed a predator hiding in plain sight. That Friday night, Hannah went out with friends to a party. Just after 1 a.m., she texted a friend saying she was lost. Moments later, surveillance cameras captured her walking alone through Charlottesville's downtown mall. She was visibly disoriented, and then she was gone. For weeks, thousands searched. Volunteers, law enforcement, and even drones scanned miles of woods. Her parents pleaded for answers. National media covered every development, but no one could find her. The breakthrough came from those surveillance tapes. Investigators noticed a man, later identified as Jesse Matthew Jr., walking close behind her. Moments later, another camera caught him with his arm around her, leading her away. Police traced him, interviewed him, and quickly realized he had a disturbing history. Matthew fled the state but was captured days later in Texas. DNA evidence would later connect him to not just Hannah's case, but another horrifying crime. On October 18th, 35 days after he vanished, Hannah's remains were found on an abandoned property in Albemarle County. The cause of death: homicidal violence. In 2015, Jesse Matthew was convicted of her abduction and murder, but he was also linked to the 2009 murder of another student, Morgan Harrington, a Virginia Tech student who had vanished after a concert in Charlottesville. Matthew is now serving multiple life sentences without parole. Hannah's murder shook the entire UVA community. It forced a harsh spotlight on campus safety, predator tracking, and the way missing persons cases are handled in those crucial early hours. In her memory, new safety initiatives were implemented, including enhanced security cameras, late-night safe rides, and better coordination between campus and city police. Hannah Graham was just walking home. That's all she was doing, and something every student has done hundreds of times. But in that moment of vulnerability, she crossed paths with a predator. Her case reminds us that evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it walks among us, unnoticed. Kristen Smart, Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo. Kristen Smart was tall, confident, and full of ambition. At just 19 years old, she was a freshman at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, majoring in communications. But over Memorial Day weekend in 1996, Kristen walked home from a college party and was never seen again. For over 2 decades, her disappearance would haunt her family, the university, and the nation, becoming one of the longest and most frustrating unsolved campus mysteries. On May 24, 1996, Kristen attended an off-campus party. Around 2 a.m., she left with a few other students. She was intoxicated, struggling to walk. A fellow student, and Paul Flore, offered to walk her home. He claimed he left her just a block from her dorm, but she never made it inside. Her belongings were still in her room. She vanished without a trace. From the start, Paul Flores was the prime suspect, but there was no body, no witnesses, no confession, and no physical evidence, at least not yet. For years, the case stalled. The Smart family begged for answers. In 2002, Kristen was legally declared dead, but her parents never stopped searching. In 2021, 25 years after Kristen vanished, a new search of Flores' family home uncovered key forensic evidence. It was enough to make an arrest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what did you tell us?
I told you I got it playing basketball.
That's right. Where did you get it?
In my car.
He told a friend that he got it from being pushed at a party. He told another friend he didn't know how he got it. And then the story he ended up sticking to was that he got it by changing a radio in his truck.
He said, well, actually I was working on my pickup truck and I bumped my head against the steering wheel. But I was too embarrassed because that was such a dumb thing to do that I didn't. I made up the basketball story.
I hit the steering wheel. That's about it. But like, how often do people hit their eye in the steering wheel? So
I don't know.
The investigator that I talked to who did the video, what struck him wasn't so much the inconsistencies and the wobbly story. What struck him was the body language.
Your best guess as to what happened.
Very, very fidgety, very, very reticent to answer questions, and he just looks super nervous, scared, and wants to be anywhere in the world other than that room. Now, of course, anyone's going to be kind of nervous, maybe, speaking to police. I guess anybody would be if they're speaking to you about the disappearance of somebody.
Put his hands inside his shirt, he was squirming, he was crying.
The story changes multiple times. He admits that he's changed the story.
oh, it's not really lies, but fit. It's so minute. It's well, I guess you can call it little white lies. Yep.
Last time we talked to you, you had a black eye.
Yeah.
Paul Flores was charged with murder. His father, Ruben Flores, was charged with helping to hide Kristen's body under their deck. In October 2022, Paul was convicted and sentenced to 25 years to life. His father was acquitted. Kristen's remains, however, have still never been found. In the wake of Kristen's disappearance, California passed the Kristen Smart Campus Safety Act, requiring colleges to better coordinate with law enforcement when students go missing. Her story became a rallying cry for families of the missing, a symbol of hope and relentless pursuit of justice. Kristen Smart vanished just 100 yards from her dorm room, on a walk she never should have taken alone. Her case reminds us how silence and inaction can delay justice for years, even decades. But it also proves that persistence and the love of a determined family can finally bring the truth to light. Brian Shaffer, Ohio State University. Brian Shaffer was everything a medical student should be: driven, charismatic, and full of life. At 27, he had just finished finals at Ohio State University's College of Medicine and was ready to relax over spring break. But after a night out with friends, Brian walked into a bar in Columbus and vanished. Not just disappeared, vanished without a trace on camera. To this day, his case remains one of the most baffling campus disappearances in U.S. history. It was the night of March 31st, 2006. Brian went out with friends to celebrate the end of exams. Around 1:15 a.m., surveillance cameras caught him entering the Ugly Tuna Saloona, a bar in Columbus near campus. Inside, he had a couple of drinks, chatted with some women, and separated briefly from his group. Then, nothing. What's most disturbing? Surveillance cameras never recorded him leaving the bar. Not the main exit, not the side stairwell. Nowhere. Police searched every inch of the bar, rooftop, basement, and surrounding area. No trace of Brian, no signs of a struggle, no body. His credit cards, bank account, and phone were never used again. The exits were covered by cameras, yet no footage ever showed him walking out. It was like he vanished into thin air. Theories swirled. Did he fall into nearby construction and get buried? Was he murdered and smuggled out through a service exit the cameras missed? Did he stage his own disappearance? Some suspected foul play. Others thought grief may have pushed him to run. Brian's mother had died just weeks earlier, but friends say he was planning to propose to his girlfriend. He seemed optimistic, not depressed. Even creepier? In 2008, Brian's phone rang, and the call actually connected for a few seconds. But it was traced to a cell tower far from Columbus, and no new clues came from it. Brian's father never stopped searching. Tragically, he died in a freak accident in 2008, still without closure. Brian's younger brother remains the last close family member still hoping for answers. Over the years, people have claimed to see him in bars in different states, even in other countries, but nothing has ever been verified. Brian Shaffer walked into a bar, surrounded by people, music, and security cameras, and somehow disappeared off the face of the earth. No witnesses, no exit footage, no final clue. To this day, his case remains unsolved, and it begs the question, how can someone just vanish without anyone seeing it happen? Suzanne Jovin, Yale University, Yale University. One of the most prestigious schools in the world, a symbol of knowledge, privilege, and safety. But in December of 1998, it became the scene of a brutal, still unexplained murder. The victim? 21-year-old Suzanne Jovin, a brilliant multilingual senior preparing to graduate. She was found stabbed 17 times just 2 miles from campus. The crime was vicious, personal, and still, after all these years, unsolved. On the night of December 4th, Suzanne had just finished emailing a professor about returning borrowed GRE materials. She had been working on her senior thesis about Osama bin Laden, years before 9/11 would make him infamous. Around 9:25 p.m., witnesses saw her walking away from campus. Roughly 30 minutes later, her body was discovered on a residential street in New Haven, brutally stabbed and her throat slashed. She had no defensive wounds, no signs of sexual assault. Her wallet and watch were still on her. The attack was sudden, savage, and strange. At first, suspicion fell on her thesis advisor, James Van de Velde. He was reportedly the last person to meet with her that day. Though he was never arrested or charged, Yale removed him from his teaching position, sparking outrage. Van de Velde later sued the university and police for defamation and was awarded a settlement, but no physical evidence tied him, or anyone else, to the crime. There was also a mysterious clue, a partially written note in Suzanne's handwriting about someone lending her a GRE book, possibly a meeting that night. That person was never identified. Some theorize it was a crime of passion. Maybe a jealous classmate, someone rejected romantically, or a stalker she never mentioned. Others believe the FBI or intelligence agencies may have shown interest because of her thesis topic, though that has never been confirmed. Despite DNA being recovered from under her fingernails, no matches have ever been found. Over 2 decades have passed. The case remains open. Suzanne's parents continue to push for justice, and the city of New Haven still offers a reward for information. But leads have gone cold, and Yale, known for producing presidents and Nobel Prize winners, remains the backdrop for a murder no one can explain. Suzanne Jovin's murder is a case that stings with silence. No witnesses, no suspects, no motive. Just a young woman with a brilliant future, brutally silenced before she could achieve it. In the middle of an Ivy League institution, a predator struck, and somehow got away. Jeanne Clery, Lehigh University.
Hi, my name is Jeanne Clery, and this is one of my best friends, Mei Ling. Today I'm here to inform you of the profuse history of the Shih Tzu and how to groom and care for it. The Shih Tzu is an intelligent, exuberant, and gorgeous little animal, so therefore you should know how to take care of it right and properly.
In 1986, 19-year-old Jeanne Clery was just starting her college journey. She had dreams, ambition, and a new life ahead of her at Lehigh University in Pennsylvania. But one night in her dorm room, a place meant to be safe, she was attacked, brutalized, and murdered. Her story is tragic, but what came afterward reshaped how every college in America handles campus crime. It was April 5th, 1986. Jeanne had returned to her dorm after a normal day, but around 6 a.m., a fellow student, one she'd never spoken to summer, broke into her room. He beat, raped, and strangled her. There was no forced entry. He simply walked through an unlocked dorm door, one of many that had been left unmonitored despite repeated complaints from students. Her body was discovered by a custodian. The entire campus was shaken. The killer was identified as Joseph Henry, a fellow Lehigh student. He had been trying to steal from rooms when he encountered Jeanne, and decided to kill her rather than risk being caught. He was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. But in 2002, that sentence was commuted to life in prison. Jeanne's parents, Connie and Howard Clery, were devastated, but they were also furious. They soon learned that Lehigh had experienced dozens of serious crimes on campus, none of which had been disclosed to students or parents. They believed, rightly, that if they had known how unsafe the campus was, Jeanne might still be alive. Their activism led to the passing of the Clery Act in 1990, a landmark federal law that requires all U.S. colleges and universities to publicly report campus crime statistics and provide timely warnings of potential threats. Today, every student who receives a campus crime alert has Jeanne Clery to thank. Jeanne Clery's life was stolen in a place where she should have been protected. But in death, she became the reason millions of students are now safer, more informed, and better protected. Her name became a law. Her memory became a legacy. Pravin Varughese, Southern Illinois University. In February 2014, 19-year-old Pravin Varughese was a sophomore at Southern Illinois University, majoring in criminal justice with dreams of becoming a police officer. But one cold winter night, he disappeared after attending a house party. Days later, his body was found in the woods. What authorities said happened, and what his family believes, are two very different stories. This is a case of conflicting narratives, mysterious injuries, and a family's relentless fight for the truth. On the night of February 12, 2014, Pravin attended a party in Carbondale, Illinois. At some point, he left the gathering and was seen getting into a car with a man named Gage Bethune, a stranger he had just met. Later, dashcam footage captured Pravin running from the vehicle into the woods after an apparent altercation. It was around 12:30 a.m. The temperature was below freezing. 5 days later, his body was found in a wooded area near the road. Authorities initially ruled the death as accidental hypothermia. But the Varughese family disagreed. Pravin had visible bruises, cuts, and signs of a struggle. A private autopsy revealed blunt force trauma to his head. The family argued that police failed to properly investigate the case, dismissing it too quickly and ignoring key evidence. Years later, Gage Bethune was charged with first-degree murder after text messages and witness accounts suggested he had hit Pravin before he ran off. In 2018, Bethune was convicted of murder, but shockingly the verdict was thrown out due to a legal technicality involving improperly worded charges. Rather than retrying the case, prosecutors dropped the charges completely. The decision sparked anger from the public and left the Varughese family devastated. Once again, denied justice. Pravin's mother, Lovely Varughese, became an advocate for families of victims, speaking out about racial bias, campus safety, and the need for reform in how college deaths are investigated. To this day, she continues to share Pravin's story, hoping to one day see real accountability. Pravin Varughese didn't die because of the cold. He died because someone left him alone, injured, in freezing woods, and because a system failed to take his death seriously. His story is a chilling reminder. Sometimes it's not just what happens, but what's ignored afterward. They were daughters and sons, scientists, artists, athletes, dreamers. Each one of them believed that a college campus was a safe place to grow. But for them, it became the setting of their final chapter. These aren't just tragic stories, right? They're warnings about domestic violence, about mental health, about campus safety, about racism, bias, and systemic failure, and about how even the smartest, strongest, most promising young people can still be taken from us too soon. If you or someone you know is experiencing abuse, harassment, or any form of violence, speak up, reach out, because silence doesn't protect anyone. It only protects the predators. And if you're a student watching this, when you ask your school, what are you doing to keep us safe? Demand more. Because your life, like in the lives of your classmates, are worth protecting. To the victims, we remember you. To the families, we stand with you. And to the viewers, never forget their names. Subscribe for more untold true crime stories. Hit the bell to be notified.